Section 22 of The Diary of a Russian Lady. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Diary of a Russian Lady by Barbara Doukhovsky. Our Journey Abroad. An event occurred which overwhelmed me with joy. My husband was quite unexpectedly sent to Italy to be present at the Grande Manœuvre at Milan. What a splendid surprise it was! We packed up and started on our journey in the first days of June. As the manœuvres begin only in July, we shall have plenty of time to wander about sightseeing. First, we are going to the seaside and have decided upon proceeding straight on to Boulogne-sur-Mer. That will be a treat indeed. The country between St. Petersburg and the Prussian frontier is very uninteresting. Nothing but flat cornfields, woods, and wide expanses of pasture land stretching on both sides of the railway. When we arrived at the frontier, some Prussian officials rushed into our compartment, and having taken possession of our passports, they declared to our profound stupefaction that we had to go out, and began to fling our handbags out of the window. We had scarcely time to jump out when the train began to move, carrying away our heavy baggage, which had been more lucky than we were, and we were left to our own devices. It appeared that our passports had not been signed by the German consul in Moscow, and although it was stated in my husband's passport that he was going to Italy on a special mission, these horrid Germans tumbled us out of the train, finding sufficient ground for detaining us until permission be received by wire from their consul in Moscow to let us proceed further. We stood for some time on the platform of a picture of forlorn discomfort, looking at each other helplessly and trying to collect our scattered wits. How perfectly dreadful it was! Our position can be better imagined than described. We had positively no notion where to go and what to do with ourselves. The day was closing rapidly. It would soon be night. What were we to do? Sleep in the open air, perhaps, for except the station there was not a house within sight, and to return to our frontier was impossible, there being no other train that night. Clutching our bags, we mournfully entered a vast Wartesaal, where a party of bearded Teutons were loading themselves with beer out of huge pint mugs, and were all talking at once amid clouds of tobacco smoke. The atmosphere making me feel faint and dizzy, we hastened back to the platform in search of the station master to beg him to give us somewhere to lay our heads. He came up to us, a fiercely mustached man, awfully stiff and puffed up, and asked us what we wanted. We begged him, expressing ourselves somewhat lamely in German, to give us shelter for the night. He led us to his quarters and ushered us into a little slip of a room, low-roofed and whitewashed, furnished with two huge feather beds with eider-down quilts, where we felt ourselves as prisoners put under arrest. A bad night is soon passed, after all. The first thing I did was to remove with all haste the obnoxious coverlet and lie down, but I could not sleep for the stifling air in the room. I tossed and turned in bed till morning. We started back to Alexandrova with the first train without taking any breakfast, not wishing to have anything to do with these detestable Prussians. On arriving at the station, whilst taking coffee, we received the longed-for telegram, and as we had to wait till evening for the North Express, we decided to drive to Ciechotzinsk, a small Polish watering place, which is only a few miles distant from Alexandrova. The journey was extremely tiring on account of the excessive heat and the flies, which were pertinacious. We proceeded along a sandy road under a broiling sun. At last we arrived. The casino, a red brick house hidden among the trees, suggested repose and comfort. After having appeased our hunger and quenched our thirst in the restaurant, we took a room and locked ourselves up to have good rest. After a refreshing nap, Sergei wanted to explore the place. He returned after his stroll rather dissatisfied with Tsikotsinsk, and we decided to return to Alexandrova at once. We were surely taken here for a pair of unlawful conjugators of the verb to love, for we merely came to perch like a bird for a couple of hours, then to fly away. When the North Express drew up at Alexandrova, we went to have a try for a carriage to ourselves, and had to give a good tip to the conductor, who ushered us into an empty compartment, assuring us that we should have it to ourselves as far as Berlin. But at the first stopping, another guard came to announce that we had been placed here by mistake, this car being bound for another direction. He proposed for us a compartment in the neighboring carriage, but if he imagined that he was going to be as liberally recompensed as his cheat of a companion, he was very much mistaken, for he did not receive even 1 kreutzer. We got thoroughly punished for it, however, for when the train was going to start and we had just composed ourselves for deep slumber, a lady and a gentleman were ushered into our compartment, an elderly Englishman on the wrong side of 50, particularly nasty-looking, and his spouse, a young person of about 19, very nice to look at. Her husband called her baby, and bestowed caresses upon her all the way, but she didn't seem to care a cent about him, and responded very phlegmatically to his advances. Well, to have married such an individual, she must have had great courage. With not so much as a pair of tongs would I have touched him, and couldn't have married him if he was the only man in the whole world. End of section 22. Read by Henry K. Noble in Falls Church, Virginia, July 29th, 2024.